Good afternoon. Welcome to Talking Business. I am Blessing Aichi. All right. Today we'll be looking at the just concluding COP27. The reason I said just concluding because today is 18th and COP27 has been on since November 6th and is run through from November 6th to November 18. This is the 18th day in the month of November 2022. So ongoing or just concluding COP27 and Nigeria's economy. Now, while we're looking at COP27, lots of events, lots of discussions involving Nigeria's economy have emerged at the COP27. One specifically relating to the energy sector and the other Nigeria's agricultural sector. So looking at those areas as it regards the COP27, I have Emmanuel Eboigwe in the studio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Blessing.
All right, COP27, the 27th United Nations Climate Change Conference that has been ongoing in Egypt. In that conference, Nigeria, for one, is pushing for $400 billion for renewable energy, as it concerns the climate, to have energy that is more climate friendly. But let's look at that push for 400 billion. Is it something that is feasible? Does that energy transition plan look feasible, and is it achievable as well?
Question of feasible, it's arguable, but it's inevitable for us now not to be talking and thinking about energy transition. The reason is, the world is thinking green. Nigeria would be left out
if it's not thinking green.
If we're not thinking green. Climate change is real, and steps to, so it's a plan really.
Yeah,
and
of course, energy transition plan.
Energy transition plan, really. So it's inevitable for us to plan for energy transition. The plan basically is for us to see that by 2030 we at least have access to energy, and then 30 years thereafter we have zero tolerance for
carbon
emission. So that's it's a journey of 1,000 miles, begins with a step. So we're in the right direction. Again, it's not as it were government loan. From though the budget plan is sketchy, but at least from the information we're getting, but it's not government loan as it were, not infrastructure loans like the generic ones we're used to. That's so far the information we're getting.
Okay, so if it's not government loan and Nigeria is said to be pushing for $400 billion to accomplish the energy transition plan, then what sort of loan would it be?
The details, the full details will come up, in the coming months. But this is, for now, the expectation. I hope NNPC is going to play a major role in the energy transition, and alongside that is that there are a number of rollout plans for that purpose. It's meant to be more or less a commercial loan, funds to push energy transition. Basically, it's not something coming into our budget, national budget, that we would be needing to fund with taxpayers.
Okay, fund the servicing and then repayment.
No, that's not the plan.
Okay, but looking at the plan itself, there was a time when there was a plan to move away from fuel to gas, convert vehicles running on fuel, on petrol fuel to gas. At that time, the cost of conversion seemed to be the problem. Now, if we're talking about energy transitioning to renewable energy, given these challenges, do you see it happening? And how do you think it would happen if it's going to be possible?
No, certainly, like I said, it's a plan. And of course, we would need to get back there because there were incentives then from, Eurobloc and others, pushing, as an incentive, pushing us to get away from, petrol, diesel to gas. And of course, then it was as good as companies or plants that agree to do those switch were incentivized to do that. So we have no option but to get back there. It's a plan. And of course, whilst the plan starts rolling out, of course, the processes and you are talking about now the retail involvement, that is, the piecemeal involvement. It's going to be, a huge corporate industrial involvement.
No, I use that to cite an example because at the point we wanted to move from having vehicles run on petrol fuel, and then the alternative was gas. But in the case of renewable energy, the alternative here seemed to be biogas.
Yeah.
So if we had difficulty, if we had challenges doing that at the level of, having energy for vehicles, and then it was not achievable, or at least the rates at which it was achieved, we will say is very low. So how then would it be possible to move entirely to renewable energy when we've experienced a challenge like that in one sector?
What we have presently, the meeting that's presently going on in Egypt, bear in mind, is the 27th. So there's a slogan that says, difficult questions, answers will be provided to difficult questions in this conference. So the point remains that it is not Nigerian-based initiative. It is not we who is going to, we have technology developed across the world already for which Nigeria would just only be lashing on to the global climate change plan, for which asking to fund the plan now, only part of the process that's global and for which, and that is inevitable too. So sources of it is also just, there are milestones to the sources of it. And of course, there are the KPIs, that is key performance indices, will be measured as the plan progresses.
Okay, let's look at the agricultural sector, also impacted largely by climate change, and to sort of provide cushioning for that for Nigeria, the UK is offering to support with what they call PropCom Plus investment aimed at increasing productivity and adapting to the effects of climate change in Nigeria. But that will come with a sum of £95 million. So what do you think that would mean right now for the Nigeria agricultural sector, and how best to tap into that support?
Of course, it's anticipated that that will create an additional 4,000 jobs, as well as other spiral effects, spiral benefits from it. You would agree with me that what we have this year, even though it was not sudden, it's only natural that we begin to have that support. So the support is good for us. The planned jobs, new jobs created by that support of 95 million pounds coming to us is also something heartwarming. And of course, It's just for us to optimize on that benefit and, of course, look out for more ways to cushion the effect of the drought we had.
Now, in looking for more ways to cushion that, what are some of the steps that we should take, things that should be provided to cushion this effect? In the north, for instance, we have desertation like really happening in the farmland area and affecting agriculture.
The same way is going on in the north. What I keep blaming us for is, advocating for is that, can we have a nationwide plan fully implemented to, forestall a reoccurrence of this kind of challenge? From these funds coming, for instance, and of course to other, funding we might be, angling for, I am thinking that it is possible for us to have a full-blown plan to cushion, or stop a reoccurrence in the future.
Things like desertification.
Yes.
Is it possible to do that?
Of course, it is possible. It is possible. Whatever we set to do. If for instance, just going back to what we said before, energy transition plan was something looked like impossible in the past. Even the former president of the U.S. was Donald Trump, wasn't in support, like as it were. He thought that he wasn't. But here we are. Climate change is here with us as a world. Planning to, transit is here. So too, there is nothing impossible if we set our hearts to do it.
Okay. So would that mean that more technology will be needed for the agricultural sector in Nigeria?
The technology is out there. It's actually for us to go for it. And I think that, I don't know the details of this 95 million pounds. It might not all be coming in cash. Some might be coming in technology transfer. So the technology that is needed for it needed necessarily to come alongside any funding that is supporting the initiative.
Do you worry about implementation? Because sometimes when support policies are being made, it seems not to trickle down to those who are on the field.
I'm not worrying so much about that because I think this, just like I said, I don't know the details are not out yet. It is just like an executive promise from the British, High Commission. But normally, most of those supports or assistance that come with a blueprint of how it will be implemented. So that's part of it. I am thinking that some will come in terms of technical support, others will come in, even the one that will come in funding support. The totality of the process is part of the review.
Okay, hoping for the best, and it seemed like COP27 has actually come to impact Nigeria significantly, because it seemed like lots of gains are coming to Nigeria from this conference.
Yes, of course. There is this other 100, aside from the 400 billion that we're angling for, there is another $100 billion promised to less developed country for climate change effects or impact in the past conferences that have been held. And of course, it's part of what is being pushed in this conference. And of course, it's not unlikely that, developed country will begin to look at how that, would be settled in the coming years.
Okay, now, as bad as climate change and its effects may seem globally, but it does seem to open business opportunities as well. Would you say so?
Business opportunities, as well as it's crowding out a couple of other existing businesses. For instance, we would need to necessarily be moving to green energy and moving away from fossil fuel. So that in itself is crowding out fossil fuel businesses and moving in favor of green energy. There is also going to be a technology change, and of course, you know, when there's a technology change, a number of people would lose job for if they do not retrain. There is going to be a couple of, so I am unable to agree fully that it is all about new opportunities, because there will be lost opportunities from the fossil fuel space.
Okay, on a final note, going back to energy, it's been said by some experts that green energy is cheaper. Is that true?
It is cheaper as well as it is healthier. Of course, too, we cannot but think environment and think green. Knowing, you know, it's like I said earlier, it's inevitable for us to think green, it's inevitable for us to think healthy, it's inevitable for us to, it's cheaper, why not? Yes.
Okay, and then we can say that COP27 has come and gone to do Nigeria a lot of good. It's our hope that the push for $400 billion for the energy transition plan succeeds. Nigeria gets that, and of course we're able to transition successfully to renewable energy. We also hope that the support promised by the UK, £95 million for Nigeria's agricultural sector to take care of effects of climate change, would also be well used and benefit us. Now, away from COP27, there is one issue that we've been dealing with. In fact, in the year 2022, it seems to have been worse. We know that fuel scarcity happens or surfaces once in a while in Nigeria, but in the year 2022, it seems to have been like too frequent. Again, we're dealing with it. But petroleum marketers, some of them have said that illegal levies are to blame for the resurfacing of fuel scarcity.
Illegal levies and the effect or impact of adverse effect or impact of illegal levies are not as serious as the foreign exchange debt that is affecting petroleum importation presently. Yes, there's allegedly illegal levies imposed here and there. Some like transporting petroleum product from the wharf down, and of course too. But the bigger challenge is that almost all the operations across the oil and gas line are dollarized, and as you see Nigerian naira falling in favor of the dollar, it puts pressure on the per liter prices. So that's basically one angle we're going into, because not all of the dollar can be sourced from CBN. Of course, we already have a shortfall of that from CBN. So most of the foreign exchange to do oil and gas business is sourced from the same parallel market that's presently overheated, with dollar going as high as 900 naira until just this recent drop by indices you can't basically place your finger on. So it's not just about the illegal levies alleged by, if you ask me, I'll say that's a lesser evil than the impact of foreign exchange sourced from the parallel market.
Well, if we have if you have a depot that is not independently managed, controlling the importation of fuel, do you think that it will help? Because the marketers who import fuel gets forex by themselves and all of that thing. But if we have, like it used to be controlled by the NNPC, if we have that situation again, do you think it will help?
Blessing, that's like taking us back to where we had gone away from.
But
what the country have argued repeatedly is that we can't keep funding subsidy, oil subsidy. What we presently have is a situation where, yes, we don't want to call it subsidy, it's a right back, you know, to NNPC. I don't think that it is going to be possible anymore. Thinking that way is just to begin to look at how efficiently we can fund oil importation, petroleum, refined petroleum importation. That's what we will be looking out for. 2, let's look at how we can get more foreign exchange into the system to put less pressure on the parallel market prices. Those are the things to be looking out for. Let's look at how to increase non-oil export for us so that we can have more foreign exchange that will reduce the naira-dollar exchange rate. Those are the
way forward from
the
this
way
situation.
forward from talking about centrally managed pump price. It's like in the past. Talking about government regulating the price is like in the past. Is how to cushion the pressure on.
But the past seems to have helped more than what we have presently.
The past was what this administration, for instance, denied completely in the past that there was no subsidy. But at the time it was clear that there was subsidy, we were now looking at cleaning the process. Now we have gone too far away from, that was 7 years ago, thereabout, when the former administration had, was reeling under the pressure of subsidy. So we are walking away from subsidy into calling it a right back. So I don't think that it is it's feasible for us to be thinking of going back there.
Okay.
We'll be looking at efficiently managing our economy. We'll be thinking of how our economy will become more productive. We'll be thinking of how our economy will be less dependent on oil export. We'll be thinking of how, there are options to think of than to be thinking of regulating oil, pump price.
Okay, so forward we shall go, forward we move, hoping that the things that will make it easy for Nigeria to have a relief from the constant fuel scarcity that has been experienced this year would happen. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
And that's been it today on Talking Business. Thank you. I am Blessing AJ. Enjoy your weekend.